this name, Evil Twin Mason.
Evil Twin Mason.
Evil Twin Mason. Hey everybody out there. Welcome to another Evil Twin Mason video. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing and also talking about how you can get minis for cheap or even free with just a little bit of patience, a little bit of money to start with, and a lot of scouring the internet. So today what we're doing is we're unboxing this monster here, which is an order from GameCastle.com. GameCastle is an online store, but also a set of brick and mortar stores. You may have one in your town. I have one that's here locally that I adore. It's one of the best stocked hobby stores around, especially in my city. And so I do like shopping there. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, though I will have a link to the products that I got in this in the description, and do know that those are affiliate links. So if you do purchase there, same price for you, but there's a kickback, supports the channel, which is great. So anyway, what I got here is a box from GameCastle that has some miniatures in it and some other stuff. So let's look at it real quick. As you can see, I have not done anything to unbox it at all. I'm going to cut the tape. So you get all the joy of watching somebody slowly cut the tape for no reason. Let's get rid of the order sheet there. No, that was for you guys. So you can see inside we've got some WizKid products. So specifically, this is a brick of WizKids miniatures. Just pull that box out of the way here. There we go. And also, there was some super glue. So one of the cool things about GameCastle is they have a rewards program for purchases. So if you go over a certain dollar amount on a purchase, you can choose some items for free. And so for this purchase, which was over $100, I ended up picking up some super glue, which is something that, you know, you never really have enough of. And so this part was free. I paid for this. And I'll put up on the screen how much I paid for this, and then we can talk about why I ordered it. So let's start with the unboxing. So you'll notice that this is not the most recent set, which would be Rime of the Frost Maiden. This is actually Icons of the Realms Monster Menagerie 3, which has been out of print for quite some time. And so recently WizKids announced that they were starting to do some reprints of products. Now, I was particularly interested in this one because there are quite a few cool miniatures in here that fill gaps in my collection. Monsters that I need for DMing and that sort of thing. But also, there's a bunch that are very sellable. So we'll go through these as we open them up. And then we'll talk about what I mean by getting miniatures for free as we get these opened. So what I'll do is open each box, show them off, and then as we're going through that, I'll talk about what it is that I mean by getting free miniatures. So one of the things that's important for me is to keep my hobby as close to neutral in terms of cost as possible. So if I can get things for free, I want to get things for free. If I can get things that are cheap, then great. So I have a couple of target prices that I keep in mind, and note that, you know, my goal is to acquire miniatures. I'm a dungeon master most of the time, and so my goal is to acquire miniatures that you know, fill out my collection, represent all the goblins and orcs and anything we can possibly get thrown at. I also DM a bunch in Adventurers League, which means that there's a big, you know, breadth of monsters that may come up in a in-person game when we get back to those. So it's important for us to have a lot of different variety. Otherwise, you're just imagining that this, you know, orc is actually a Zvart or something else. And so I like to have a diverse collection. And so my goal has always been to get miniatures for $1 or less, and then also to get paint for miniatures for $2 or less. And so one of the ways that you can do that is to take minis and turn them over. So Monster Menagerie 3 hasn't been readily available for a long time. And so the miniatures in it can be a little bit more valuable than they would have been when it first came out. So we got here is, we got a Death Dog. It's a good looking mini. We also have a Goblin, just your standard ordinary Goblin carrying a torch. And we also have a Winged Kobold. Ooh. I won't be doing a turnaround or anything for these because these minis have been out for a long time, but I wanted to show you what I got in a brick so that when we go to the second step, you can see if our gambling paid off or not. And also, a big old Fire Giant Dreadnought. I love that, like, somebody had to reach in there and paint all the interior. Not that it gets seen very much. I wonder what part it must have glued on the hands at the last part, because painting between those shields, not simple. All right, 1 box down out of 8. Always good to get a giant. Those aren't the kind of minis you just randomly find. All right, next one. We got Frost Giant right out of the gate there. Though I kind of think this guy's more of the Teal Giant as opposed to the Frost Giant, because his skin is weird. And you can see that, you know, with these minis, a lot of them, you're going to get inconsistent paint jobs. You've got what looks like a wash or something that spilled off there. The sword is bent. And just also, this sculpt is terrible, but it's, you know, it is what it is. All right, what else we got? All right, so this is a Dragonborn Fighter. Always welcome. Always need more Dragonborn, right? Death Dog number 2. Because there's never just one, right? There's always a pair of Death Dogs. And last but not least, a Bearded Devil. Though they look like tentacles, but it's a Bearded Devil. Now I have minis from this set already, but I got them, you know, back in the day when this was readily available. And so I was really excited to see that these were being reprinted. And you'll see that sometimes you're going to end up with duplicates. However, this guy, you'll note, is Frost Giant 31 of 45, and this guy is Frost Giant 32 of 45. And you can see one guy has an axe in his face, big disgrace. The other guy's got a sword, right? So exact same sculpt except for the weapon, which doesn't make it any, you know, better or worse. It's just different, right? Unfortunately, the Death Dog wasn't holding any weapons, so those are the same. We've got the Kraken Priest. And I think originally this guy was mislabeled as something else, but it looks like it's been fixed. So Kraken Priest. That guy's really cool. For all your Kraken priesting needs. And this is a Magman, which, you know, that's one of those minis that, like, you're going to have a hard time finding anywhere else, right? There's no board games that are going to give you Magman. And this is a Nilbog, which, if you've never played against a Nilbog, they are very annoying. Of course, it's just goblin spelled backwards, and they are backwards goblins for sure. All right, this is box number 4 of 8. almost halfway through. All right, another big guy. He's tied in place there. One of the reasons that I like this set is because you do get huge minis. And a lot of the WizKids sets don't have any huge figures at all. So buying huge minis on the secondary market is always very expensive. So it's nice to pick these up. Now this guy is an Empyrean, which I think that this particular mini also makes excellent Cloud Giant. There's not really a ton that's different, skin wise and that sort of thing. And the size is correct. So I use these in my game as Cloud Giants because they come out more often. Ooh, a gray Slad. So that's a fun mini. He's got a spell effect coming out of his hands. And we've got a Triton Fighter. I think this is the rare. See him there. And another Goblin, which we'll just way up here. If you want to see the Triton Fighter, let's show him off too. All right. Box number 5, officially past the halfway point. Another big guy. We got, this time it's a Cyclops. Cyclops is a fun, very iconic creature to fight it against. They just seem to never show up in adventures. I don't know if they've ever been featured, or they haven't been featured recently in any of the D&D adventures that I'm aware of, which is sad. They're really cool. We've got a human bard, clearly playing an electric guitar. We've got this is a gnome wizard, a tiny little guy. Last but not least, out of this box is a vampire spawn. You always need vampire spawn. Alright, so box number 6. Oh, look at that. Look at that guy. That is, my friends, a Storm Giant. Which you may note, I think he's also tied in. Oh, just kind of cemented in there. Cut him out. Now, this is, of course, just a fantastic mini overall. You can see he's got the lightning effect going on. He's got this really weird crooked sword, and I don't think that was intentional. But just a cool mini overall. Obviously, this sculpt, this exact sculpt, was released by WizKids as one of their pre-paint or unpainted minis. So this is one that you can pick up, and I think it's $15. So we'll use that as a reference point for later. But 15. So unpainted guy, $15. This guy, we'll see. Sturge. Some of these I recognize, so you can just, before I even pull them out, I'll know. Sturges are just tiny little dudes. This is one of those minis that's almost not worth having. I mean, they're so small, and so anything, a penny would be a good Sturge. They're just not, I don't know. I would never buy them, let's put it that way. And a Knoll. WizKids has made a ton of Knolls recently. I think there's been Knolls in almost every set, and so they are less uncommon than you would expect. And one I need for sure is this guy, a Quadrone, otherwise a D6 on legs. This mini is particularly, it'd be hard to craft, I think, well. And I know from experience that that when you print these with resin, it doesn't necessarily work out that great because they're very spindly. So that's a nice pull for me. All right. Next up, another giant. I think we're sensing a theme. They called it Monster Menagerie 3. They should have just called it Giants. Giants on Parade. All right, so this is just a standard hill giant, but it's nice that it gives us a different gender. There's a lady hill giant here. I think that's one thing that tends to not happen as much with the WizKids models and the art in D&D just in general, is that they don't tend to be as diverse with the gender when there's no reason not to be. We got here a gibbering mouther. This guy is horrifying. A little body horror for you there. And this one we've got another Sturge. And just a regular kobold. And then our final box. The Mouth of Grolantor, which is, a hill giant with a gut. This is a weird, interesting, creature. Also, he's bald. That's, this is me. All right. So we've got, looks like a Mephit. Yeah, Mud Mephit. We've got a Gazer, a little tiny beholder there. And last but not least, a human bard with no musical instrument. I love it when they're just like, well, let's just call it a bard, and then people will play it like it's a bard, but who needs music? It's a poetry spinning bard. All right, so that's all the boxes opened. It's a pretty good selection. You got just a slew of giants here to look at, and a couple of duplicates, but not too many. So now what we're going to do is move on to the second part of this, where we'll talk about how we can make these as cheap as possible. And we'll come back and do that in a second. All right, so let's talk about what I mean by getting free miniatures. So we'll do tons of videos on this channel about how you can get cheap or free miniatures or paint or whatever. In fact, we have an entire Discord, also linked in the description down below, that is dedicated to that prospect. How can we as DMs, how can we as players get our minis cheaper? How can we reduce the cost of our 3D prints? How can we reduce the cost of pre-painted minis or unpainted minis? What sources are good? What can we use to represent other minis? But something to be said for having a pre-painted mini that you can just set down and go with right out of the gate. So you saw our big haul. We've got tons of giants. We've got a total of each box comes with 4 minis in it. And so we had 8 boxes, so 32 total minis. And so I said before that my goal is always to get minis for $1 a piece. And I mean that, and I stick to it. And so a thing that is important to me is, even when they're big, even when they're super fancy, I still want to get them for $1. So we'll start with, and I'll talk about Game Castle again, just to show you the order and how much I paid for it. There wasn't, these weren't on a particularly great sale or anything. $17.99 a piece, which I believe is probably close to the retail on them, because when I ordered this from Game Castle, they were they had to order them for me, right? Essentially, it was a pre-order because these had just come back into stock. And so it's not for sure that every game company or every game store online or whatever is going to actually carry this particular set as an example. However, as I'll show you, I think it's probably pretty well worth it. So the total on that was $143.92. I don't live in their state, so they didn't charge me tax. Now, shipping is free over a certain threshold, and so I got free shipping. And then you can see that they also threw in the Arms Keeper glue. So this happened to be during ReaperCon, and so they had a discount code available as part of ReaperCon, and so I took advantage of that, and that saved me another $20. So $122.33 was my total out payment for this brick of boosters. Okay, so one of the things that you can do with these minis is you can think about, okay, do I need them all? You can certainly keep them all. There's no reason to not keep what you spent your money on. But I come from a history of playing Magic. And in Magic the Gathering, all of your cards, as you open a booster pack, are worth something to someone. So you can trade them, and you can take those, your binder of cards to any kind of a tournament or show or whatever, and you can trade 1 for 1, 2 for 1, whatever it is, and it's easy enough to find the values online to do that. People don't bring their whole miniatures collection to D&D events to do trading, and so it's possible that you can do trading, but it's less likely. But what you can also do, the same as with Magic cards, is you can sell to stores. So it's possible that you have stores in your area that buy individual miniatures, and they look for them, find out if they have a buy list. If they don't, you can always suggest it and say, hey, are you interested in buying individual miniatures that you could sell in your store? I have found several stores that weren't doing it until I talked to them about it, and they said, you know what, that does sound like a good idea, let's do that. So miniatures tend to have a reasonably fast turnover, especially if you're priced well. And so it's a good business that they can be in. So there's, of course, online stores that do this very same thing. Two of the biggest are Miniature Market and Troll and Toad. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the minis that we just opened, and we're going to take a look at how we can sell to them. So I'll start with just kind of showing you on Miniature Market exactly how it is that you get to the sell portion. So you can see, if you go to their website, you'll probably want to sign in, and then or create an account if you don't. And then you can see here that they've got right in the middle, buyback. If you click on buyback, it'll take you to this section, and you can see that they buy Magic the Gathering, they buy Dungeons and Dragons, they buy Pathfinder Battles, which is just another line of minis from WizKids. And so what you can do is you can click here and search by game. You can see you've got those options. And we're going to choose D&D Miniatures, and then we're going to scroll down to the set that we did, which was Monster Menagerie 3. Now, you can see here that almost all of the miniatures from the set, they're at least offering something for. And so for a lot of the common minis, they're not paying very much, 35 cents, maybe $1 for the Sturge. So that's pretty solid. And you can see here they also have trade credit. And what trade credit is great for is that it gives you an additional value for anything you're trading in. You don't get cash back, but you can utilize that in order to generate store credit at the store, in this case Miniature Market, and then spend it on future minis or whatever it is that you actually want. You can buy from Miniature Market just about anything in the miniature range, including paints, brushes, supplies and accessories, all that kind of stuff. In addition to, you can buy individual miniatures from them. If you just have one, you need to fill out your, so if you want to actually buy a Sturge, then you can do that. And let's take a look real quick at what they charge. Now, look, they're paying $1 and they trade in $1.30. And if we look for Sturge on their site, you can see they're selling it for $7. So $1 for $7 fin, you might think, oh wow, that's ridiculous. Well, if it sells for $7 here, it probably sells on eBay for $5 or $6. And so you can recognize right out the gate, okay, this mini is probably worth $5 to $7. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to keep it? Do I need this mini? Or would I rather have the $1 that they're offering? One of the things that's important to do when you're trying to do trade-in for credit is to shop around and make sure you look at other people's pricing. So also, you can go to the Troll and Toad store, and they do the same thing. You can see here that they have a buy list. You can click on their buy list. And you can see they buy all sorts of stuff, but specifically, we're selling D&D mini singles. You can see here that they have Monster Menagerie 3. And let's just look for that Sturge again. You can see here, they're paying $3.95 for it, which is very interesting. So we'll go back to their store. And let's look and see what they're selling Sturge for. You can see they're selling theirs for $10. So again, something you have to assume is that when you are selling to people online, that they're going to be, of course, buying it from you at a far lesser price. You could sell these on eBay, and if that's the case, if you do that, then you likely could get more money, but it does take a while. You have to package it, ship it. You have to protect your eBay rating. I do sell things on eBay to help me get down to my dollar rating. And we'll look at one mini in particular in a minute and talk about whether or not selling on eBay makes sense. So let's go back to Miniature Market. I went ahead and actually created a cart. All right. So in this case, I went in and I looked at all the minis that they were selling or that they were offering to buy, and the ones I was willing to sell to them. And you can see they are here. All right. And so the buyback value they're offering me is $41, or I can get trade in with a 30% bonus of $54.60. Now that's pretty great. Most of the other minis in our what we opened, I did not see, it wasn't worth it for me to sell it to them. You know, getting 30 cents for a mini, I'd rather keep it because it's well under my $1 a mini cost. But if I sold just these 5, I'd be left with 27 minis. And so with 27 minis at, let's say, $54.60, if we go to our calculator, so we'll start with, all right, so 122.33, and then we will subtract from that the value that we'd get. So minus 54.60, and we get down to 67.73. All right, so we have 27 minis left, which means we're paying about $2.50 a mini for what we got. Now, I can tell you, it's very difficult to buy a Frost Giant. It's very difficult to buy a Mouth of Grolantor for $2.50, but you can get a Goblin for $1, right? And so depending on where you're buying, maybe $2.50 is okay, right? For what, considering how much we're keeping out of that, $2.50 a mini, not unreasonable. They're all painted. We know what we're getting, so now at this point, so there's no blind box options. All right. So let's go to Troll and Toad, and I'll tell you that often by price shopping and comparing, you're going to find that you have better options. So Troll and Toad is offering a lot more at this point from the Monster Menagerie 3 in terms of what they would be willing to buy. So for example, the Sturge, they're saying $3.95. Over here, it's only $1. The other option, let's see what we got, a Bearded Devil. So the Bearded Devil, which is down here, they're giving $8.10, and they were giving $6. The Triton Fighter was $16.50, and they're giving $16.25, so just a little bit less. And then the Storm Giant, $16.50 versus $30.25. And you can see here, we got to $111.10. Now, they also offer an option for having a bonus if you want to spend the money at their store. So in their case, you can add $27.78 to the order, choosing Troll Cash, for a total of $138.88. All right, so let's do our math again, and we'll start with $122.33. And then Troll and Toad, $138.88. Which means that currently we'd have $16.55, but we'd be selling all of these minis, right? This is a lot of minis. The total is 19 of our 32. So that leaves us with 13 left. Now, I can't really divide by 13 and tell you how much they are, because it's a negative number. So all the minis that we are keeping are free, right? Now that's how you do it, right? You find somebody that's willing to pay for what you opened, and you still have flexibility here where you can say, you know what, I want to, start collecting minis. I want to start building my collection, and I need everything. And so I'm willing to sell the stuff that's a premium so that I can build my collection. Maybe you don't need a Triton Fighter. I don't need a Triton Fighter, so I'm willing to sell that. Now, Storm Giant is something that I do want, and knowing that they're probably making quite a bit of money on it, let's look for Storm Giant. So they have it doesn't look like they actually have any in stock. So I've hidden the out of stock, so let's unlock that. You get a lot of weird stuff. But when they have it, they'll sell it for $45. All right, so let's go to eBay. Let's look up Storm. Nope. Storm Giant miniature. All right, and you can see that some of these come up. See, here's the one, right? And somebody has it as a buy it now for $36.79. Now, usually if someone has a buy it now set, you can almost guarantee that that's the price you're going to see for the mini in general, right? People don't give, this is a store, you can tell they have a logo or whatever. They're not giving stuff away. So you're probably at, looking to get maybe $34 to $37. One thing about selling on eBay is you always have to remember you're paying PayPal fees. This is free shipping, which is probably $4 to ship it at least. So maybe you would net $30 if you sold it this way. Maybe. More likely 28 or so. So if we go back to what Troll and Toad was offering us, go back to the buy list. Let's look at my cart. $30.25. So they'll pay us what we would get if we sold it on eBay. And so that means that it's probably better to just include it as part of this order if you don't need it. But if you do keep it, no big deal. So let's say we really need to keep that. Okay, so now we're at $80.85. And we want to go to complete our order and choose Troll Cash. So we get another $20 here. So we get to $100, $101.06. All right, so 101. So we've got 122.33 minus 101. 606. So 2127. And so again, that's keeping 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 minis. So divide that by 15, and it's $1.40. So if I told you you could buy this Storm Giant for $1.40, you'd get pretty excited, right? Now, one thing to note is that, we just happened to open in our brick one of the most expensive minis from the set. And so this doesn't work for every combination of things. So one thing that I do before I ever place an order for minis is I scout the pricing, right? And so with, for example, with Troll and Toad, you can look at the, let's say, for example, because I think also Storm King's Thunder is going to become available. And so Storm King's Thunder, I'll take a look at that and I'll say, okay, show me, throughout this, are there ones that are priced really well? And so ignore Chief Gub because that's something you have to buy by itself. But she comes $15, $26, $13, $20, $20. So you can see that, and here's one 10, here's one that's 13. So you can see that there are a bunch from this set that are worth almost as much, if not more, than the booster box itself would cost. Then if you look through it as well, you can see that there's a bunch of little things like a bandit. That guy's worth $4 to them. Great. You can have it. And so bandit captain, $4.50. You can have him. Great. I don't need that guy. Because I can make plenty of random dudes. Random dudes are going to be free for me. All right. So note that this is probably a good set to order and do this with. Right. You just need to hit one of the good ones like Harshnag, like Countess Sansuri. And when you do that, or the Wanti Abomination, one of those will get you over the hump and toward selling a lot of your minis that you got, or half your minis that you got, and then the rest are free. Because that's basically where we ended up. We're selling 17, keeping 15, and selling 16 and keeping 16, and we are we're making $16 in profit. And to be honest, what else could you ask for? So that's going to be it for this video. Keep tuned for future videos because we're going to be talking about how to get cheap minis, where to search for them. Join us on the Discord. We're there talking about cheap minis, posting deals that we find, making sure that everybody has access to the good stuff all the time. We have a really supportive, very friendly community. So don't be afraid to drop down and just come say hi. Also, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. Just hit the little subscribe button. That helps other people find the video, helps other people learn about how to get cheap minis. And that's what we're here for, is to help people find and expand their collections so that they can actually put the right mini on the table at the right time. Nothing better than that. We'll see you next time.